Hello everyone and welcome to today's Facebook Live with myself, Ryan Hassan and Matt Nettleton. It is great to see you all today. Today we're talking about anxiety through the lens of trauma. I'm just going to turn my volume down a bit. As always, we love the interaction. So if you are on with us live, then please just put any questions, any queries, any statements, anything in the comments. I can see the comments here. The software that I'm using, I might be able to see your name, or if the permissions aren't allowed, I'll just see Facebook user. So I might know who you are. I apologize. But please, first off, jump in the comments. Let us know where you're listening from today, whether you're in Australia, New Zealand, USA. It is Sunday here in Australia. It will be Saturday in the USA. If you're in the UK, it's the middle of the night. Go to bed. Looking forward to today's live. We're going to try and keep this one short. Me and Matt normally tend to bang on for over an hour, nearly an hour and a half. We want to keep this one a little bit shorter today, short and sharp, and it can lead on to maybe some other lives and some other topics, because we want to be much more active in this group and doing a lot more lives and trying to add more value to everybody in this group, because we love this group, we love the people in it, and we love spreading the message around how we need to educate the world about trauma, the nervous system, mental health, addiction, all of that stuff, so we can make this world a better place for us all to live in. And that all starts with us. That all starts with us, and then being able to spread that out to other people. We've got sometimes that won't let me in. Well, if you commented, you're in. From Adelaide, Melbourne, Australia, New South Wales, Melbourne, Bass Coast. Okay, welcome everybody. Great to see you. And everyone watching the replay, you can put hashtag replay. Texas! All right, we've got someone from Texas. Cannot hear or see anybody. Okay. I don't know what to do about that. See how it goes. It might come through for you. Otherwise, you have to catch the replay a little bit later on. If you do watch the replay, just put hashtag replay. Any questions that you have, then don't hesitate to put them in the comments. We will, obviously this will go into the feed of the group, but it can get lost in the feed a little bit, so we will add it to the guide section later on. We have someone from Christchurch, another one from Melbourne. All right, awesome. Let's get into it. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Yeah, we're both a bit up and about for a Sunday, which is always good. So let's first of all jump across here and talk about what we're actually going to talk about today. So we've only got a couple of slides to go through today. I always say, like, we're going to be short, but with me and Matt, you never know. So we will see. And also, we don't know what kind of comments and questions we're going to get. So we're going to talk about the types of anxiety, causes of anxiety, the different band-aids that we use to try and deal with anxiety, and then healing anxiety. Obviously, on a Facebook Live like this, we can't go into all the elements of everything, but we do want to really give as much information as we can in a short amount of time. When it comes to anxiety, like rife, at our center, we would see people with, addictions, alcoholism, bipolar, schizophrenia, all this stuff. But the number one thing they would all say is they were anxious as well. I barely recall a patient that didn't say they had some sort of anxiety. If I'm doing a talk and I ask someone, is someone struggling now or has struggled in the past with feelings of anxiety, it's like everyone puts their hand up, except for like two people who are probably too anxious in the moment to put their hand up. So it's something that we struggle with as human beings, but we struggle more than ever in this age of information, this age of constant stimulus coming in through our senses, and these old survival adaptations that all human beings have. Montreal, Canada, welcome. So we're going to jump right into it here. Let's talk about the different types of anxiety. So you could look online, there's probably some say there's 10, some say there's 20. You can probably think of all different types. I've just put a couple here. The first one is general anxiety. So someone, if there was an official diagnosis, might call that generalized anxiety disorder. And that's like an umbrella, that constant hum of anxiety, which we are going to get more into how that starts and why people have that. But then under that umbrella, we have all these different ones like, social anxiety. It's a massive one, people struggling with, social gatherings, school, work, all of those things where there's lots of people around. Panic attacks, which is kind of the extreme end of anxiety, when anxiety really starts to get out of control and the body, the physiology starts to go into a full-on panic state. And I know myself, I've experienced those. So many of the students that we work with have experienced those. And they're horrible. You feel like you're dying. They're absolutely terrible. Phobias. So there's phobias of all kinds. I put underneath that agoraphobia. Now that obviously comes under the umbrella of phobias because it's a type of phobia. But I put it in there just because I think it's really interesting. My good friend and colleague, Nick Sutherland from MindFit, who I do a podcast with, he's an incredible man. You be around him for 10 minutes and you automatically feel more calm. He's like a bit of a Buddha in that aspect, a bit like you, Matt. And his journey is one of being discharged from the army, sexualized violence in the army, injuries that he's had for life, coming home, not being equipped to deal with anything, alcohol, medication, all that kind of stuff, to a point where he was agoraphobic and he would look at a door handle at the front of the house and had so much fear that he was unable to turn that doorknob to leave his house. And when we think about stress, so an accumulation of stress leads to anxiety, which we are going to get into. People think that the outside world is causing a lot of this stress. Okay, so we think that, oh my God, if I didn't have A, B, and C going on, then I wouldn't have this anxiety, this nervousness, or this stress. Whereas this is actually an inside job, okay? Because we all have different stresses. Right now, for most of you watching this, hopefully all of you watching this, opening the front door to your house isn't too much of a stress for you. But for my friend Nick at that time, that was the biggest stress in his life. It's not the external world. Someone right now might be deciding whether I need to send a drone attack that might kill innocent civilians in the Middle East to save a certain amount of people in my own country. Different stresses, different decisions. As human beings, we have to deal with stress on a day-to-day basis. And if you think that by getting rid of A, B, and C stresses in your life is going to eliminate anxiety, you are incorrect, because another A, B, C will replace those because you haven't dealt with the underlying survival stress that's been going on in there. Matt, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about sort of each point. Like general anxiety, it's like garden variety, constantly there. It's like a hum in the background. It can be like a feeling of impending doom, or just the really subtle feeling that there's something wrong. Like that inability to just completely relax. It's like something's grasping in the background, something's holding on, something's clenching, something's in a very subtle protective mode. We could be sitting on the couch watching TV with our family, absolutely nothing's wrong, but there's this grip in the background, this uncomfortability, this anxiety and insecurity that's feeling like something's not perfectly safe, and we could be sitting watching the telly and just have watched the news and it's banging on about COVID and this and that and whatever else the news bangs on about, and then for the rest of the night we can have this background of feeling of something's not quite right, and we can live with that. We're bombarded with so much information and information that stimulates our fear response. And so then what happens is the nervous system then adapts in a specific way. It stays on the lookout unconsciously for threat, even though consciously we might be feeling like we're relaxing watching the TV. But if we tune in, there can be this background, general garden variety, unsafe feeling. And I think that's a symptom of modern culture and like you said, the internet, and how much external stimulus we're getting that are really ways to elicit a fear response in us. Whether that's intentional or not is a whole nother conversation, but I just think we all fall victim to a state of general anxiety. So social anxiety, me and Ryan...
Sorry, Matt, I'll cut you off in one sec. There was a comment just saying that Matt's very quiet. Can anyone else just let me know if Matt is quiet? It was just one comment, so I just want to make sure, and then we can make the adjustment. So keep going, Matt, with the next one, and we'll just see if there's any comments come up.
Am I quiet to you, Ryan?
No, it sounds fine to me.
Okay. Yeah. I hope not. Otherwise, I'll try and unplug my headphones if we get anyone else say it. So social anxiety, we use this example a lot. So like when a child's at school, maybe in grade 1 or 2, and we put our hand up to ask a question and say everybody laughs at us. And we get that knot in the gut that says, you idiot, why'd you ask that question? There's something wrong with you. It's not safe to express yourself, etc., etc. If that response doesn't complete itself, it can cause social anxiety later in life, because, the next time I go to put my hand up, I'll get something in myself that says, don't do it, it's not safe. And then so I can end up with a background sort of hum of social anxiety that's constantly on the lookout and constantly attempting to protect itself from being laughed at, from being humiliated. And I think we all have that to varying degrees. And then, of course, I adapt my personality. I change who I am, and I contort myself in order to fit in and stay a part of the tribe and not get laughed at and ridiculed. And so social anxiety can be on the high end of the spectrum, where it's like as soon as we go outside, and have to engage with anyone else, it can elicit like a panic attack. And has anyone else said that? Like,
yeah. A few people said quiet. A few people said fine. So just I've got like a proper microphone. I'll turn mine down a little bit.
It's the contrast.
Yeah. And just Matt, just we'll do a little bit of. Just go into your system preferences down the bottom. We're going to do some technical.
That option.
The little cog, the settings.
On the Mac computer.
Yeah.
Or
on the Mac, on your computer. We're going to do some live technical.
Yep, got it.
Issues. Go to sound.
System preferences.
Yep, sound.
Just look for sound.
And then input.
Sound. Input. Yeah.
And then turn it up. Can you turn it up? Like, where is it now?
It's on like 3/4 or
just
3/4.
Turn it all the way up.
Yeah, is that better?
Yeah, it's always sounding fine my end, and I turn myself down, so hopefully we're all good. Okay.
Sync up. Yeah, cool. Panic attacks. So I used to have full-blown panic attacks. I was diagnosed with panic attack disorder and all that sort of stuff, and was prescribed Xanax and all the stuff that they do to try to manage and numb those sensations. But I would experience garden variety anxiety, which was really uncomfortable. It was a constant feeling like there's threat. And then I would spike up to like full-blown panic attacks to the point where I couldn't breathe and felt like I was going to pass out. And it was really, really horrible. Phobias, they can come from experiences as well, traumatic experiences. And so, say I get bitten by a spider, and this is not always the case. Say I get bitten by a spider, and then I see a spider and I develop a phobia of a spider because every time something represents that memory in the present circumstance, my system will revert back to the trauma response of the actual situation. I think you explained agoraphobia really, really well. But I was feeling into, as you were talking, just getting a sense of your friend Nick's experience. And, it's like life. When we accumulate experience and have no support on how to metabolize experience, we become more and more and more isolated within ourselves. We become more stressed, more anxious, more depressed, more shut down. The stress in our system never metabolizes and digests, and what it does is it just gets stuck, and the more stuck it gets, the more closed off we become, until something like opening the door becomes threatening. And we have all these diagnoses like agoraphobia and panic attack disorder and generalized anxiety, and to me it's like, this is through how we view it through the lens of EP. A lot of these are just a response to an umbrella term called trauma. They're symptoms. They're symptoms of stored somatic stress. They're symptoms of adverse childhood experiences, or experiences that never digested within our nervous system, and then they show up symptomatically as panic attacks, as agoraphobia, as social anxiety, as general anxiety, etc., etc. And it comes back to Gabor Mate's quote when he's talking about addiction. It's not why the addiction, but why the pain. So it's not necessarily why the agoraphobia, but why the pain, why the shutdown. Why is that there? And it's not what's wrong with you. The question needs to shift to what happened to you. So like in the case of your friend Nick, there was a very specific set of things that happened to him. And rather than us giving a damaging diagnosis and saying, you've got agoraphobia, which can create an identity and a label that we view that person through a much more compassionate approach, would be, okay, what happened to you? And we can help that person to then metabolize those experiences and heal from those experiences. And then what happens is the agoraphobia falls away on its own, and I'm just like to be clear, this is through the lens of EP and a trauma-informed approach to these sort of things.
Just for those who
Ryan,
don't, just for those, who don't know, Matt said EP a couple of times. Embodied processing is mine and Matt's practitioner training, the somatic therapy that we use to treat a lot of these conditions from the bottom up. So Matt touched on a few of these causes. People, like I said, think that the social event is the issue because it's causing the anxiety, but the social event is just touching on something. It's touching on something very tender, something very sensitive. And that's what's causing the anxious response. And so when we think about the causes of anxiety, we're projecting a story of suffering onto an imagined future. That's where fear comes in. It's like, I'm projecting a story. The future hasn't happened yet. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. Yet I have a story that I'm projecting that says something bad's going to happen. Yeah, I'm not going to feel safe. I'm not going to feel safe in this certain situation. And so why do we do that? Why do we project that story? Why don't we just have a nice story that goes, hey, this social gathering is going to be fantastic. Opening the door to my house is going to be awesome because I can go out in the sunshine and go to the letterbox and get my mail, whatever it is. Why do we do that? And there's two reasons, and they're kind of linked. And one is an activated trauma response. Yeah, if I have, a lot of bullying around school and I haven't been able to digest those experiences, then maybe I will develop as a manifestation of that social anxiety in the future because I see groups of people as dangerous. A lot of what we speak about, not just in this live, but all the time, it's that feeling inside that just says not safe. If it had a voice, that's what it would say. Not safe, not safe, not safe. So for Nick, I'll have to tell Nick that we used him in the example of this whole live on the podcast this week. He won't mind. It's this not safe. It got so narrow that everything outside the boundary of his house was deemed not safe to his nervous system. Yeah. So we've all got kind of this bandwidth, and we're all like to stay within that sphere of safety. Okay. And so for some people, that includes not just the house, but it includes these three people's houses in this other place and maybe the park down the road. But it may be anywhere that I haven't been before, a new place, maybe that's deemed as not safe. Okay. But if we don't start to deal with a lot of this stuff internally, then it will tend to keep getting narrower over time. But just kind of the edges of it creep in, or the boundaries, so to speak. So we can have specific trauma responses. We can go into a cafe and a person sitting there, or maybe someone making the coffee looks like it has the exact same color jumper that my uncle used to wear when I was a kid, and my uncle was an absolute asshole to me, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, I don't like this cafe. I don't like it here. Can we go somewhere else? Right? So it's activated trauma responses. The one that myself and Matt like to talk about a lot is that, but also this stored survival stress, this accumulation over time. So many people that we speak to on a day-to-day basis and have for years have a build-up of this survival stress. So we don't digest these life experiences that happen to us, and it's not our fault because we're not taught how to. We're not taught how to in school. Our parents didn't know how to. If they were, then lucky you. And we're trying to change that with our children, but also teaching other people, how to properly be trauma informed when it comes to raising kids. But we didn't have that knowledge, education. We didn't have what we would call the capacity. Okay, so we store. And so over time, it's like we accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and accumulate survival stress. Because if I was bullied at school, I didn't know how to process the fear and the shame and the guilt and everything that came along with it. I couldn't go home and maybe openly talk about it with my family. Or if I did, maybe I was just told to get over it. Or, my parent would go and attack another parent or something like that. Okay, which is not the way to deal with that kind of situation. So what happens, it's like the weight of this survival stress over months, years, and then decades becomes so heavy that, like Matt spoke about, it becomes that hum. Yeah. Now, for some people, that hum's like a 2 out of 10. For some people, that hum's a 5 out of 10, an 8 out of 10. And it can be really, really uncomfortable. And we get to the point where we kind of normalize it. If we have it for long enough, then it becomes like the air conditioning fan that's been on in the background. And we don't know that it's there until it turns off. And that's why a lot of the clients that we work with, it's wonderful because they get to have that moment where they're like, oh my God, that anxiety's there all the time. And I haven't noticed until it turns off. Now, just because we normalize it doesn't mean that it causes issues, because we're about to get into band-aids in the next slide. But if we have that sitting there for any period of time, then as human beings, we're going to try and seek relief from that. So what I'll do, I'll bring up
And
a little.
it's
You go, Matt.
it's kind of, you know, like when an experience happens and we spike into, say, a hypervigilant state, for example, you know, and that never comes back down and completes itself. That hypervigilance stays on red alert constantly and gets projected out onto external circumstance. And that's the activation of a trauma response. And it shows up cognitively, you know, as a story, as a specific way of filtering experience and viewing experience. You know, that's sort of like what happens on a psychic level. On the level of the body, you know, it really affects our physiology. It affects our brain. It affects our nervous system. It affects our gut. It affects our heart. It affects everything about us. And it stores in our fascia and our joints and, you know, our bones. It's almost like it's in our marrow, this hypervigilant state and experience imprint gets frozen into our cells, into our physiology. And you know, then what happens is anytime we go out in life and experience something similar, say a social situation, that exact same imprint will then be on red alert and come into consciousness and become more dominant. And when you say something's normalized, it means it's just not dominating our conscious experience. You know, it's there, but it's become like the fridge that's always on. You know, when the power goes out, everything goes quiet. It's like in that moment we've got contrast. We couldn't even hear the fridge prior to that because it wasn't dominant in our consciousness. It was still on and still there. And a lot of us live with anxiety that is like the fridge that's always on. You know, it's a constant background hypervigilance. Others, you know, it really dominates our consciousness and affects our life like so dramatically that we, you know, go and seek help. You know, so like it is important to realize that I think as a species collectively, you know, most of us have the experience of anxiety. It's just this, you know, it's like what we say about trauma. It's a spectrum and to varying degrees. And to us, you know, the healing journey is about making these sort of things conscious and metabolizing them and digesting them. Because if they're a background experience, they're still governing and orienting and driving our behavior. You know, and you said that just because it's normalized doesn't mean it's not causing issues. Well, a lot of the issues we have are from something that's happening unconsciously, you know, but we might not be able to relate the two. Like I could be on my phone much more than I want to be. And I think the phone being like picking up my phone is the problem. So I take steps to try to prevent that from happening. But the background driver of that can be this subtle sense of anxiety.
Yeah. So true, so true. We had a couple of great questions here. So someone just asked, can you have this trauma result of the womb, that the nervous system is not safe, dysregulation already pre-activated? Thinking especially kids with ASD and have some predisposition already in fight flight. Yes, absolutely. One of the categories of trauma that we talk about is pre-conscious or pre-cognitive, and one of the areas of that subsection is in the womb. So that it can definitely be activated in the womb. You know, babies whose mothers had very stressed pregnancies will be born with higher levels of cortisol. They've done studies on that. So yes, it definitely can be something in the womb. But that doesn't mean it can't be then dealt with. Just to give you a little bit of an example, because Matt and I both have experience with this personally, and I don't want to make this go then too long and share our journey. But just for me, so my parents had a child before me who died at the age of 10 months, right? One of the most horrific things that anyone could experience, and then had me got pregnant again straight away with me. So and a lot of the work I've had to do personally is around that in the womb work, because it's like, you know, it's not my mum's fault. It's nobody's fault. They went through something so traumatic themselves. It's unbelievable. But imagine being in the womb and kind of there'd be that underlying anxiety from my mother, but also that like feeling like, please don't die, and that constant. So yes, we're going to be predisposed, but definitely not predetermined. You know, there's a big difference between those two. So predisposed, not predetermined, but we can go back and start to unwind these constrictions that happen in the womb later on in life, which is great news.
And just on that topic, you know, in the womb, we're still in what Margaret Marlowe calls the symbiotic phase in the separation individuation process. And in that phase, we actually feel and internalize every single one of our mother's feelings. We feel what our mother's feeling, absolutely. There is no separation between the nervous systems. That actually starts to happen at 6 months of age. And so if mum is having all these anxieties, I, as a baby, am feeling those absolutely, 100%. And internalizing those. And we can have anxiety show up when we're 30, 40 that is anxiety from those experiences while we were in the symbiotic phase. And just another way, just like to add in the generational trauma bit on anxiety. So they did a study with rats or mice, and where they'd keep them in a cage and spray cherry blossom into the cage. And the cherry blossom's a pleasant smell. It's not threatening. But then after a while, they would give an electric shock at the same time. They would spray the cherry blossom. And then, what ended up happening is they would just spray the cherry blossom without the electric shock, but the mouse or rat would still go into a response like it had been shocked. So basically, the mouse had associated the smell of cherry blossom with an electric shock. So that's the trauma response. I think it was 2 generations later, so that mouse or rat's great-great-grandchildren had that same response to cherry blossom. So we can have these anxieties and these imprints
even though they were never shocked.
Yeah, even though they were never shocked at all. They just spray the cherry blossom into this baby mouse's cage, and it would go into a trauma response because its great-grandparent had that adaptation. And so we can have these imprints and hypervigilant parts and loops within our psyche playing out unconsciously and have anxiety and not even know why we're anxious. And it can be dating back through generations. And this is why I say, healing trauma is a generational project. It's something we keep doing, and our kids are going to have to do.
Yeah. But the idea is that our kids tackle different issues than we did. And so, because what happens, less of it. Yeah. I mean, generationally, it's like the same patterns repeating, but it's like, we don't want our kids to have no problems. We just want them to have different ones. Someone just said constant background. Is this why some react to have a heightened sense of sound? Yeah, absolutely. That can be one of two things. So yes, that can definitely be a response to trauma. Hypervigilance is a very common response to trauma. So I'm very, very, very vigilant of my environment. I'm checking doors, people, especially facial expressions of people. That's something I would do. And I still find myself doing it a little bit, even though I don't have the emotional reaction. But it's just like if I'm in a room of 50 people, it's a quick scan of everybody's face. Like, is everything okay here? It's a check for safety, right? Once again. And so there will definitely be a sound element to that. We can also have the predisposition. We can be a highly sensitive person, so around 15 to 20% of the population would be deemed a highly sensitive person, which means we have a more attuned or highly sensitive nervous system. This can be both a gift and a curse, because those people are actually more susceptible to traumatic imprints than the norm. But these are also some of the most creative people on the planet, and not just creative people in the sense of the arts we traditionally think, like painting, music, comedy, all of that kind of thing, but also being able to be therapists, healers, coaches, all of that kind of thing as well, because we can empathize and explain experience on a very, very deep level. So that's a big yes to that question. And all right, let's bring up this diagram here. I'm going to bring it up full screen so you can see it a bit better. I don't want to go and spend too much time on this, but we just want to try to understand, for those who aren't very familiar with nervous system states and polyvagal theory, basically we have an autonomic nervous system, and that nervous system is scanning the environment for threat all the time. Now, whether it's actual threat or perceived threat, the nervous system has trouble differentiating between that, and will go into some sort of response even if it perceives threat. That's why we feel a certain way if we say, think about a party or a dinner that I'm going to, and then I start to feel in my body all the reactions of that. It means my nervous system is perceiving that not safe. feeling in the future. We have two branches to the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Some of you listening will be like, yeah, I'm all over this. I know about this in polyvagal theory. Some people will be like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I'll cover it. Sympathetic nervous system means activation, okay? Charge, upward lifting energy, okay? I am active, okay? An unhealthy or dysregulated nervous system in a sympathetic state is anger and or fear. Okay, so they're very active emotions. We have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is more of a shutdown or a rest and digest, or actually a really healthy social engagement. For those of you, polyvagal theory, poly means many or multiple, and vagal is referring to the vagus nerve, which is so incredibly important when it comes to the nervous system because it is the 10th cranial nerve and goes to pretty much every organ and everywhere in the body. In that parasympathetic nervous system, we can have a healthy rest and digest phase. We can have what we call a ventral vagal activation, which is safety. This is the opposite of anxiety. This is the opposite of perceived threat. Okay, it's complete and utter peace and safety. Then we have a dorsal vagus activation, which is a freeze, immobilization, or shutdown. Now, us mammals just have this wired into us, and it's a way that we deal with threat as well. So think about dissociation, and polyvagal theory helped therapists and everyone understand dissociation a lot better because they thought that the parasympathetic nervous system was great. As long as we were in a parasympathetic nervous system state, that we were all good. But if we were in a shutdown response or a freeze response, that's a response to threat.
That can also, like when we're too activated and have too much sympathetic charge, undischarged energy stuck in our system, we can move into a dorsal vagal response as a coping mechanism. We can actually shut down because it's so overwhelming. And so a lot of people, when they're working through their freeze response or their shutdown or their collapse response, they can start to have a lot of anxiety come up and feel like they're getting worse. But really, they're just sort of melting through that top layer into all the sympathetic charge that's underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what happens for so many people on this planet, and especially people who get into this line of work, or a lot of you who are obviously in this group because you're interested in these topics, we grow up and the ventral vagus isn't particularly active. Okay, so that pathway in our nervous system, it's like going to the gym. It hasn't been worked out much because we weren't taught how to regulate. Our parents weren't quite sure what regulation meant. And so what happened, we spend our lives, the majority of the time, pinging in between a sympathetic charge and a shutdown response. And then we end up normally, it depends on the person, but one of those will then be dominant as we start to grow up and be an adult. So whenever stress comes up, someone will go into a fight or flight response, which is that sympathetic charge. Let me get in an argument, a fight, or run away. Or other people will start to dissociate and shut down and want to close off from the world, or both. So this is what we're doing with a lot of this therapy and working in the body and with the nervous system is helping people start to build that ventral vagus again, start to find out what safety actually feels like, which can be so foreign. I know for me on my journey, when I first got into this and I was addicted to drugs and all over the place, when I felt that safety for the first time, I'm like, holy crap, I haven't felt this since I was a kid, since I was like 4 or 5. Like it had been decades, so it becomes very, very, very foreign. So it can take some time, but it's absolutely worth it. So that's polyvagal theory. I hope you all understood that sufficiently. We will move on.
And I'd just like to add, like they're all developments. So they're ways our nervous system adapts and learns to respond to our environment and our planet, and learns how it learns to function and interpret and filter the world will be dependent upon, the nervous system state will be dependent upon what our environment was like, as a child, and our parents' environment and the environment of the womb and all that sort of stuff. So all of these are learned, they're developments, they're not inherent, they're not essential to who we are. I don't believe there's such thing as someone who is an anxious person. Like that, like I don't view people that way. It's just their nervous system developed a specific way, and it can be unlearned, but it does require like a lot of work and courage to face a lot of the stress that we carry with us. So the nervous system can be repatterned.
Yeah, and that's the good news, because we come into this world and as this little, thing, this human, we're trying to work out how do I survive in my environment. And that's why those first 7 years are so important, because we're creating our programs and our systems and all that for life. Because it's like, how do I exist in this family structure? That's why a baby just cries out, if it's by itself, or if it needs milk, or if it needs holding, or that kind of thing. It's like, I just need to survive. So, then we grow up, and all of a sudden, let's say that, just use a hypothetical example. I have a dad who's an alcoholic and gets quite aggressive. And whenever I go into, let's say, a sympathetic state and get angry back, that ends up being really bad for me. I might get beaten, I might get just verbally or emotionally abused. So all of a sudden, the shutdown response becomes the safer one. Yeah. So all of a sudden, let's say that happens a lot when I'm 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. Now I'm 30, 40, 50 years old. At any sign of conflict, whenever my nervous system perceives there might be conflict coming up, I start to go into that shutdown. Yeah. Or we call the fawn response, where we just start to try and people please, or just try and get away from the conflict at all costs, because that nervous system was adapted in that way. But readaptation is possible. Let's talk about the band-aids that we use. I could have filled up just bloody 10 slides. There's lots of different things we use. Drugs and alcohol are one. Yeah. It's like I said, it's natural for a human being. If I've got this hum of anxiety going on all the time, or it's just spiking on a daily basis, or that kind of thing, it's natural for a human being to go, how the hell do I get relief from this? I want relief. I'm sick of feeling this way. And so we reach. If we don't have the capacity, the skills taught, all of that, then we reach outside of us. It's a very, very natural human reaction. Like, people have so much confusion about addiction and behaviors and that kind of thing. It's just completely common sense when you understand it. So drugs and alcohol, mine and Matt's background, if you don't know us, mental illness, but also, drug addiction. So we reaching for drugs all the time. Didn't know it at the time. If you were telling me, hey, you're trying to regulate your dysregulated nervous system, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Give me my drugs. So we reach outside of us, and that can be severe drug addiction. It can be like, I need to buy a 6-pack of beer or a bottle of wine on the way home each night, because that's just what I do to unwind. Yeah, what does that mean? Unwind. I'm trying to regulate my nervous system. I'm trying to get some reprieve from the constant angst that is just building and bubbling under the surface. Food, massive one. So many people try and eat their emotions, not just anxiety, other ones as well. Depression, sadness, all of that. We try and distract ourselves with food. People, we use other people. Okay, we use people in friendship. We use people also in relationship. Husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, all that kind of thing. We use them as a way to try and pacify. I don't want to be alone. Please don't let me be alone. Sex. I could have put more here. Gambling, shopping, all of the above. Basically anything, it's that bottom dot point, anything that distracts, scrolling, or pacifies my current experience of anxiety, nervousness, fear, whatever you want to call it. I just call it dread. So anything that distracts me. So we just want to reach. Go, Matt.
I'll just add, like I was talking about the example before of, we might think the issue is that I'm on my phone too much, but there can be a background of anxiety or a background of some sort of stress that makes my hand reach over, and then 2 hours later, I'm still scrolling Instagram. I don't have Instagram, but, and it's like, we think that behavior is the issue, just like we think the drug is the issue. The drug is the addiction. I don't believe any drugs are addictive in that sense. Of course, opiates have a physical aspect to them, but, I think people are addicted to escape. They're addicted to that movement and relief, that the behavior gives them. And that can happen unconsciously. So I can have a background hum of anxiety that then makes my hand automatically go and pick up and use the phone. How many times have you done a behavior only to realize you're doing it halfway through, or promised yourself, I'm not going to spend over $50 at the shops today, and then you walk into the shops and you've spent your whole paycheck, only to say, God damn it, how did that happen? So it's the same process, and these things happen unconsciously. They're what's driving the Band-Aid use, the need for escape. And so, healing actually requires us to make conscious the very thing that is driving the behavior. We do that by getting contrast, by practicing healing, by bringing safety in. And then we can actually recognize when we're in a space of unsafety, because otherwise it can be so normalized we don't even know we're there. That doesn't obviously apply to people that have, full-blown experience of anxiety dominating their consciousness. Ryan, you've gone quiet.
Sorry, I muted myself. This can happen, for a lot of people who are like, and I've done this with many clients in the past. It's like, let's just test this out. It's like I have that bottle of wine a night, and it's an ancient, I think, like yogic teaching. It's like, if you want to know why you do something, don't do it and watch what happens. So then people don't get that bottle of wine that night. Yeah, but it's a yogic teaching. So it's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the voices in the head start. Yeah. They're like, it's okay, just a bottle of wine, just alcohol. Anyone can buy alcohol. It's legal. Everyone does it. I deserve it. I had a hard day. I've had a hard week. I've had a hard life. I should be able to have a bottle of wine a night. And you watch what happens in response to not performing the behavior. Don't put the phone away. Put your phone away for a day, a week, a month. Watch what happens.
Well, when we don't use the Band-Aid, we're left with the wound.
And that's why it's like we might do it for 30 seconds and then go, this is stupid, let me grab my phone or the bottle of wine. But it's only stupid because it hurts.
It's too uncomfortable,
yeah. Okay, let's talk about some dot points around healing anxiety. What do we need to start to look at? And a lot of this we've already touched on in this live. So it's discharging that stored stress. We've spent a lifetime accumulating this shit. We can start to let it go. Okay? It's a process. Think of it, it's like I used this on lives before, but the backpack analogy. We've filled up a backpack of this stress throughout life. So much of it has been unconscious. We didn't have the tools. It's not our fault. Don't blame yourself. Don't guilt yourself. But we're full of stress. And we need to start discharging. And that's a process. Now, we also need to be aware, like Matt said, it's like when we're just left with the pain. If something is stored with pain, it's going to come back up with pain. And if we're not okay with that, then we're not going to be able to discharge stored stress. Okay? Now, stored stress comes from these impressions, which can be minute and things that we can do ourselves. We may need to talk to someone about it. We may need to work with a professional. But if we dedicate ourselves to discharging this stored stress, then we're eventually going to start to feel lighter and lighter and lighter. And the result of that is a lot of the behaviors and also the feelings inside will start to reduce as well. That's why if we're talking about a coping mechanism like an addiction of some type, it's like, and me and Matt know, it's like we went through this before and people are like, just stop using the drug. And it's like, oh, yeah, thanks for that. It's like, it's actually not fair to tell someone, hey, stop using heroin, when there's absolutely no other way on the planet that they know how to feel some sense of regularity and in every other moment feel dysregulated and just don't want to be part of society or want to kill themselves. Yeah, we always want to deal with the underlying reasons why, and then the surface level manifestations can start to reduce, and we can deal with them and talk about the logistics of them later. But if we don't deal with the underlying drivers, then this is why 85 to 90% of people have relapsed when they come out of rehab, because this stored stress isn't dealt with. And I think that 10% that don't probably just find some other addiction, or maybe 8 or 9% of them find some other addiction that isn't the drug they went in for. Learning to regulate, learning to actually regulate our nervous system. Like I said, we weren't taught this stuff in schools and from our parents, so we have to learn it now. Yeah, so that we can be a beacon of hope for the generations to come, and we can teach them as well, and we can make it the norm. Like, I believe in a society in the future where this stuff is all like foundational to being a human being. Like, this is the stuff we should know first and foremost before we learn fucking maths and algebra and all history and all this other shit. Like, learn how to deal with your internal state. Finding safety. Yeah. So if we think about safety, Matt and I in our training, we call it finding a resource of safety. There are different ways that we can do that, but we are trying to find some sense of safety. And for people, like I said, who haven't experienced it in decades, it's like planting a seed. Yeah, it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it's really, really easy. It's like planting a little seed and then over time watering that seed and helping it grow. So we can start to tip the scales back in our favor. The more we grow in our capacity and a resource of safety, the more we're going to be able to meet life's experiences both now and in the past and digest those. We can't digest experiences from the past now because we don't have the capacity to. So we deal with the capacity in order to digest past life experiences and also the ones in our day-to-day life, because we don't want to keep accumulating survival stress. And trauma healing, like I said, a lot of this stuff can be done yourself. You can learn regulation techniques, you can learn all this stuff, but a lot of people have a lot of big wounds, that common earlier in the womb. Like that's really, really hard to determine and find unless you work with someone on a very, very deep level, often for some time, to try and find that. We can have really, really big traumas. I mean, Matt and I, one of our passions is teaching about developmental trauma, which is rife in the Western world. It's kind of the norm in society, and trying to unwind that can often take the help of a trained professional. Anything you want to add to that, Matt?
Just like to emphasize the growing incapacity to feel. You know, like just the stored stress and anxiety is discharged by the capacity to feel it. By the capacity to come down out of the mind into the body and feel it on a sensation level. So anxiety might have the sweaty palms. You might feel the jitters inside. You might feel the racing heart and the shortness of breath. You might feel a big knot clench in the belly. That's a really, really common one. People get anxiety as just this clench, like feel sick. And I remember it used to make me vomit when I'd have panic attacks, and that clench in the gut would get really intense. And it's like fear, but the stored stress is discharged by gaining a capacity to come down and meet that clench directly. And, so like that requires a whole bunch of resourcing and the ability to pendulate. So dip our toe in the water, then take our toe out, dip our toe back in the water, and acclimatize, to the temperature of the water and the texture of the water. And we build a relationship with the clench, with the anxiety, and we step in and then step out and then step in and then step out. And eventually our window of tolerance grows, and so the anxiety that maybe used to overwhelm us will just become experienced as uncomfortable. We can experience it in quite a contained and safe way, a controlled way, like turning the tap on a little bit, experiencing a bit of pressure, turning it off, turning it on a bit more, turning it off, turning it on more. And so what we're doing is we're repatterning our nervous system to experience these emotions without the sense of being helpless and out of control. Because if we're helpless and out of control, that's when trauma gets stored in the body. And so what we can do is bring that containment and that safety in and grow in our capacity to feel, and the stored stress discharges whilst we're repatterning the nervous system. So that's what I would say is release plus integration. If anyone read my recent article, it's posted in the group on safety and integration. So I talk about the difference between just emotional release versus emotional release plus integration. And obviously including trauma healing to work on the very specific large life events that we went through. And me and Ryan always say healing, it's a lifestyle. It's not I take a paracetamol and my headache goes away. It's not that quick fix attitude. It's not like, all right, I'm going to heal my trauma and within 6 months I'll be done. That perfect therapeutic paracetamol is just going to fix my trauma once and for all. It's not like that. It's a lifestyle that we develop. It's a continuous process of refinement. We continue to do this and our capacity continues to grow. It's not something that is goal oriented or has a finish line. I would say I don't really experience anxiety anymore. I used to have full-blown anxiety, but like constant. But now I don't really experience anxiety. I can have a fear response come up in specific situations. I can be a mess and have all those sort of things, but I don't experience a constant hum of anxiety.
Yeah. And that's the difference. That's the difference between a healthy fear response that has become anxiety. It's become there all the time. It's become normalized. The fear response that didn't switch off when it needed to switch off. Because as human beings, we do need that fear response. And Matt mentioned, the body many times, and this is why what Matt and I teach in embodied processing is about working in the body, because That's where so much of the stress is held. It's like when you feel anxiety, where do you feel it? You don't feel it in the head. Now you get a lot of thoughts about the anxiety in the head, but you feel it. You feel it in the chest, the stomach. Oh my God, the stomach. That many people diagnosed with IBS and these kind of things. Myself, a history of anxiety and a diagnosis of Crohn's disease. Just so much energy built up in that stomach area that it becomes too much and a physical manifestation will start to come up. And so we work in the body because what happens, the mind will get involved and that's okay. But the mind is always trying to understand things and solve problems. A lot of people try and battle their mind with their mind and they hate it and they're like, I hate overthinking. But the issue why we overthink is because we have this anxiety stuck in the body and the mind's trying to solve it. So there's this disturbance, this really uncomfortable feeling in my body. And then all of a sudden the mind goes, okay, how do we make this go away? And that's why the mind kicks up thoughts like, well, let's just call and say I'm not going to that party. Let's just go and get that bottle of wine that I said I wasn't going to get. And so the mind says that because it's trying to help with the bodily sensation and what's happening somatically. So if we start to deal with what's happening somatically, the result of that as well is less overthinking. And overthinking and anxiety go hand in hand. Like they're synonymous. You know, they come
as
a
it's
package.
not the anxiety that's even the issue. It's the inability to be able to contain it in a resourced way and really feel it and meet it. And so rather we tip into a state of overwhelm. Because it is just sensations in the body. As they say, the difference between anxiety and excitement is just the way we perceive it, the way we frame it. So it's not actually the anxiety in the body that's bad. It's our inability to meet it directly.
Yeah. So true.
And that's something that we need to develop.
Yeah. All right. So just any other questions, please put them in the comments because we're going to finish up in just a couple of minutes. Just got a comment coming along as a Christian, thinking of the potter and the clay being refined. Yesterday I was watching a video on Module 1. So this person, I believe, will be talking about our practitioner training, which we've probably referred to a couple of times, Embodied Processing. And he gave me a light bulb moment with the example of palms open to feel, to experience rather than interpret. Love it. Really enjoying the course. So for those interested, mine and Matt's practitioner training is called Embodied Processing. It's the bottom-up approach to healing trauma and nervous system dysregulation. And like we put on this slide here, like we believe in empowering individuals with the understanding and skills to help themselves and others relieve stress and trauma in the body. And that will result in the world changing because the less of this stored stress we have, the less we want to react. The less we want to hurt other people. You know, that saying, hurt people, it's so incredibly true. Can you use EP on children? You can definitely use resourcing on children and start to teach them about the different nervous system states and their emotions, 100%. Yes, so there's elements of EP that can be used on children.
And it depends what age they are as well.
Of course.
You could use resourcing on a 3-year-old, but like... Yeah, like I think all the orientation around EP and some of the techniques can certainly be used on kids of any age as long as they can cognitively, follow your instructions.
That's right. So what I'll do, anyone that's interested, as soon as we finish up this live...
You're on mute, I think.
Fucking hell. Now, can you hear me now? I shouldn't be. So anybody that wants to look into EP, I'm going to put a link as soon as we jump off in the comments of this video. If you want to check it out, do that. If you're hot on the button right now, just type in Embodied Processing into Google. A bunch of stuff will come up. Or just go to the centerforhealing.com and you'll find all the information there. But this is sort of our life's work and this is what we are so passionate about. And we teach little bits and pieces in this live, but sort of the whole gamut is in Embodied Processing. Otherwise, this live would go for about 100 hours. So we hope to see you in the training if that is for you. I don't think we have any further questions. The children one was the last one. As I'm saying goodbye, I'll just see if any others pop up. I just want to thank everybody that's tuned in live today for tuning in. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day from the people all over the world who have tuned in. And we appreciate you, everyone in this group. If you're watching the replay, once again, push #replay. Any questions, let us know. We'll get back to you. Any questions about Embodied Processing or anything about that we've mentioned in this particular live, then just chuck them in the comments down below, or you can message myself directly if you'd like. So Matt, Thank you. I enjoyed that. Geez, we're only just under an hour. So that's about as short as we can go. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah.
We hope you have a beautiful day. Peace out.